Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Maths Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about how to find the stationary point and the nature of stationary point from parametric equations, okay? So it's very, very important for you to review the 7 steps on how to solve parametric equation. And we're going to be focusing more on step 7, which is the rules on parametric differentiation itself, okay? So it's very important to make sure you subscribe and like, okay? If you've not clicked the notification bell, I don't know what you're waiting for, please do so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. Also, another thing I want you to know as well is that if you are solving questions and you are struggling with anyone, you can send me an email and we'll discuss it together. And we'll now try to see how we can brainstorm it and get a solution as well, okay? So we're going to go straight to the examples now. So let's pick this example. Okay. So we're told that given that y is equal to 2t cubed minus 24t. Okay. And x is equal to 3t cubed minus t. All right. We're now told to find the stationary point and determine the nature of this point. Okay. Determine the nature of the stationary point. Okay, so find the stationary point and determine the nature of the stationary point. So if you go to step 7, where I talked about how to find stationary point, the first thing I said that you need to equate dy over dx is equal to 0. So that means the first thing you have to find is dy over dx, okay? So that is step 1 to 3, okay? So we're going to do that first. We're going to see how we can solve using step 1 to 3 first before we now proceed. All right, step 1. Okay, I told you that we need to first find the y over the t. Okay, so we have to differentiate y in respect to t. So we're gonna have we have here to be y is equal to 2t cubed minus 24 what? T. All right. So the y over the t is gonna be very easy here. So the y over the t will give you when you differentiate this, is gonna give you 8t squared. Oh, sorry. 2 times 3 is 6, not 8. So we're going to give us 6t squared minus what? 24. Now, we're going to do step 2. So step 2, I told you that you have to now differentiate x in respect to t. So we have 3 minus t, okay? So when you do this, so you're going to have the x over the t, and it's going to give us 9t squared minus 1. Are you seeing it? Now, step 3, to find the y over dx is going to be dy over dt divided by dx over dt. So step 3, I told you to get dy over dx is going to be, so dy over dx is going to be dy over dt divided by dx over dt. Okay? So the y over the t, we had it to be 64 or 60 squared minus 24, okay? Divided by the x over the t, we had it to be 9t squared minus 1, okay? So, yeah, I think that is the best we can do. So therefore, we can now say dy over dx, okay? So therefore, we can say dy over dx will be equal to 6t squared minus 24 divided by what? 9t squared minus 1. And that's the answer for that. Okay, so now we found out the y over dx, which is the easy part. So now we're gonna move forward now. We're gonna skip all the way to step 7. So if you have your book or your notebook or the screenshot, so go to step 7. That's what we're gonna do next now. All right, so step 7. So we're gonna start with I first, okay? So we have step 7I. So I told you that you have to now equate dy over dx to be equal to 0, and you have to then find all the possible values for t, okay? So because we know that a stationary point, okay, dy over dx is equal to 0. So a stationary point, we know that dy over dx is equal to 0. So that means the dy over dx we had this, so that means 6t squared minus 24 divided by 9t squared minus 1 is equal to 0. So as usual, I want to get rid of this fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 9t squared minus 1. And I'm going to multiply this by 9t squared minus 1. So this now is going to give me 9t squared minus 1 multiplied by, we're going to have 6t squared minus 24 divided by 9t squared minus 1, which is going to be equal to 0 multiplied by 9t squared minus 1. So this will cancel out that, and all 0 times this will give you all 0, okay? So then we're going to have here, we're going to have 6t squared minus 24 is equal to what? 0. Are you seeing it? So what do you do? To get rid of the 24, we're going to add 24 to both sides, okay? Or if you prefer, just take minus 24 over, the minus becomes what? Plus, okay? So we're going to have 6t squared minus 24 plus 24 will be equal to 0 plus 24. So this will cancel that. So when you're done with that, the next thing that you have then, you then have 6t squared is equal to what? 24. To get rid of the 6, you divide both sides by 6. So you now have t squared is going to be 24 divided by 6 is going to give you what? 4. Now, to get rid of this square root, to square, you have to now take the square root of both sides. Now, square root is plus or minus, okay? So this will cancel that. So that means we're going to have t is going to be equal to this plus or minus square root of 4, which is going to give us plus or minus what? 2. So now I mean the possible values for t now from what we've solved. So that means t is going to be equal to either plus 2 or t is going to be equal to what? Minus 2. So we're done with that part of it. Okay, so we've gotten the t to be plus 2 or minus 2. So next one we're going to now is going to be step 7II. Okay, now it said that we need to substitute the value of t into the original equation to find the corresponding value for y and x. Okay, so what are the original equation for y and x? We need to get that first. So y, take it down. So the original equation for y, we have it to be 2t cubed minus 24t, and x, we have it to be 3t cubed minus t, okay? So we're gonna write it down there. Those are the original equations, so we have to substitute the values of t we got. So the values of y the original equation was y was equal to 2t cubed minus 24. And the value for x, the x was equal to 3t cubed minus what? T, all right? So now we've gotten that. So we need to now play around. So we have t was minus plus 2 and minus 2. So we're going to first start with the first one. So at t equal to 2, so then the y will now be equal to 2 into bracket. T is going to give us 2 cubed minus 24. And when you press your calculator for that, the y is going to be 2 cubed minus 24. Is it minus 24 or minus 24t? It's looking a little bit strange. Let me check again. Yeah, minus 24t, okay? So let's go back. So we now have minus 24t, okay? So there should be a t here. So that means we're going to have another 2 there, okay? So when you press your calculator for that, so you press 2 into bracket t cubed minus 24t, it should give you minus 32, okay? Now, when you do the same thing for x here, so you have 3 when t is equal to 2, you have 2 cube minus t is going to give you what? 2, okay? So you're going to have, this is going to be equal to 22. Are you seeing it? So that means the x is 22. So that means we can say for at t equal to 2, the coordinate we had there is going to be x is 22 and y is minus what? 32. So that's the coordinate when the time is 2 or t is equal to 2. So we can have that. So that will be the final answer for that. So because we can now say, therefore, the coordinate for this, x is 22 and y is minus 32, okay? So we're going to do the same thing, exactly the same thing now for t, which was equal to minus 2. So if you remember, we had t to be plus 2, okay? And we had t to be minus 2. So we've done for plus 2, we found the coordinate at that stationary point. So for minus 2, it's going to be exactly the same thing. But this time, instead of having 2, you're going to have minus 2 in the bracket. So you have minus 2, then all 3 minus what? 24. And you then also have what? Minus 2. Okay. And when you press your calculator for that, your y is going to be equal to what? 32. Now we're going to do the same thing for x. So the x is also going to be x will be equal to 3 into brackets. Okay. Let me clean that. 3 into brackets minus 2 all raised to power 3 minus. Then you also have minus 2 as well. And when you press your calculator for that, x as well is going to be equal to minus what? 22. Are you seeing it? So now we can now say, okay, that the for this one, the coordinate for that x is minus 22 and y is what? 32. Okay, and that will be the coordinate for that. Okay, so that will be the coordinate for this one. Just to highlight it. So that will be coordinate at this one and the coordinate for the other one. And that is that. Now, so the next thing, step 3, we need to find the second derivative. Okay, so we have to do the second derivative. I've talked about that earlier. So, so the second derivative, that is step 7.3. Step 7, I. So we need to find the second derivative. So we know that the y over the x. So basically, we need to find the second derivative. Right, so we're looking for the 2y over what? Dx squared. For the dy over dx we had before was, if I go back to check, if I remember correctly, the dy over dx was 60 squared minus 24 over 90 squared minus 1. So we're going to do that now. So let me clean this. So dy over dx, which was equal to 60 squared minus 24 over 90 squared minus 1. Okay. So how do you find the second derivative? So I said that from step 4. So if you go to the video, we talked about the step 4 there. All right. So since we are having dy over dx, we want to differentiate dy over dx. That was equal to 60 squared minus 24 over what? 90 squared minus 1. Okay. So here we're going to use quotient rule because this is u over v. So we're having dividing two quadratic equations. So we're going to apply the quotient rule here. Okay. So step 4, I told you that you have to differentiate dy over dx in respect to t. Okay. So we're going to use the quotient rule to do this. So we know here that the u was equal to 60 squared minus 24. Then the u prime is going to give us 12t. Okay. Then the v was equal to 9t squared minus 1. Then the v prime is going to be 18t. So it's very important that you go back and review the previous video and make sure you understand it correctly. Is that okay? All right. So then based on that, then we'll now find, so we now have the dy over dx, okay, in respect to dt. We then substitute it. So remember the formula for quotient rule was v u prime minus u prime v will be divided by what? V squared, okay? Or let me just write this first to be quotient rule so that it will be easy for students that I just am writing. So let me just write this to be quotient rule. Okay, so the quotient rule was equal to vu prime minus uv prime divided by what? V squared, okay? So since we know that, then we can then differentiate that. So we're gonna have, we're now differentiating. Clean this. So we're now differentiating this now. We're differentiating dy over dx in respect to what? Dt using quotient rule. So now the v, we have the v to be 9t squared minus 1. The u prime, we have the u prime to be 12t minus the u, we have it to be 60 squared minus 24, okay? And we have the v prime to be 18 what? T, okay? So we have the v to be 18t. Now all divided by the v squared is going to be 9t squared minus 1 all squared, okay? So what's the next thing to do? We have to simplify this. So we're gonna open the bracket. So if you remember, I told you when you have a, b plus c, it's gonna be a times b will give you ab plus a times c is gonna give us ac. Is that okay? So we're gonna do that. So that will give you equal to. So we're gonna have 12 times 90 squared Okay, so we have 12 times 90. Okay, so we have 12 times 9. So we 8 carry 1. 9 times 1, 9 plus 1, 10. It's going to give you 108t. Is that okay? So it's going to give us 108t cubed minus 12t. Is that okay? All right, so we now have minus 12t. So the same thing, we're going to open the bracket. So we have 18 times 6. Okay, 18 times 6 is going to give us 108t cubed. Then we now have 18 times minus 24, and that will give us minus 400 and what? 32t. Now all this divided by 9t squared minus 1 all squared. Okay. Then the next part is that we then open the bracket. So it's going to give us 108t cubed minus 12t minus 108t cubed. Okay, because minus times this and minus times minus will give us plus 4, 3, 2, what? T. Okay, all divided by 9t squared minus 1 all squared. Now, 103 cubed becomes a minus. So then you now have minus 12t plus 432t is going to give us 420t, all divided by 9t squared minus 1 all squared. And this is going to be equal. So this is the final answer for the d of dy over dx in respect to what? dt. Okay. Now that is that for that. Okay. So also the next step now is that we're not looking for the differentiation of the y over dx in respect to t. We're looking for the 2y over dx squared. So I told you also that the formula for the 2y over dx squared is equal to d y over dx in respect to the t, all divided by dx over dt. Okay, so that means that'll be equal to, now the answer we had there, so the answer we had is going to be 420t all divided by 9t squared minus 1 squared, all this divided by dx over dt. So we need to go back all the way up to look for dx over dt, and dx over dt. Yep, dx over dt, we had it to be 9t squared minus 1. So we're going to divide it by 9t squared minus 1. So we keep going all the way till we get there. So we're dividing it by 9t squared minus 1. So if you want to write this again, I can write this in this form as 420t divided by 9t squared minus 1 all squared divided by 9t squared minus 1. So in order to remove the division sign, I'm going to flip this. So it's going to be 420t over 9t squared minus 1 squared multiplied by 1 over 9t squared minus 1. Are you seeing it? So we're going to have final answer to be the 2y over dx squared is going to be 420t divided by 9t squared minus 1 all raised to power of what? 3. And that will be the answer for that. Okay? So that is the what? The second what? Derivative for this question. Okay? But the question is not asking us to just find the second derivative. It's asking us to find the nature of the second derivative. So if you now go to step 7.4, okay? So step 7.4 or step 7 I. Okay? So I told you, in order to find the nature, you have to now substitute the t values, okay? So to determine the corresponding xy coordinate, all right? So we already found out two things already. We know that the first thing was that at t equal to 2, okay? What was the coordinate for t equal to 2? The coordinate we had, I think I highlighted it in green, for t equal to 2. Yep, the coordinate we had was plus 22 and minus 32, okay? So that means for that now, for the coordinate for that, we have plus 22 and minus 32. So for our t equal to 2, the coordinate that we had was plus 22, okay, and minus what? 32. So we want to determine the nature of this stationary point we have here. So we need to then substitute 2 into the second derivative, okay, which was 420t over 90 squared minus 1 cubed. So we then have to now substitute d2y over dx squared was equal to 420t over 9, was it 9t squared minus 1, 3. So it's going to be 9t squared minus 1 raised to power 3. So that means we're going to substitute the value of t here. So we're going to have 420 divided by, now t is going to be 2. Okay, we'll close the bracket. Now divided by 9 into bracket what? 2 all squared minus 1 all raised to the power of what? 3. And when you press your calculator for that, you're going to get 24 over 1225. Okay, so that means, therefore, we now know that 24 over 1225 is what? Greater than 0. And remember, when it's greater than 0, it means what? It's what? Minimum. All right, so that means we can now say that this point here, okay, we can now say this point here, 22 and minus 32 is a minimum what? Point. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same thing for t at minus 2 because we got two values for t. We got t positive 2 and negative 2, okay? So negative 2, we had it, and the coordinate was minus 22 and 32. So the coordinate was minus 22 and 32. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing at t is equal to minus 2. So we're going to do at t equal to minus 2, okay? And we have it as minus 22 and positive 32. Or let's write it a little bit down here. So at t equal to minus 2, okay? So clean that. And we had the coordinate here was at minus 22 and what? 32, okay? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just substitute the value of the 2y over the x squared. That's 420t, all right? So we now have the 2y over the x squared is equal to 420t divided by, I think, is it 9t squared minus 1? Yep, 9t squared minus 1 raised to power 3. So 9t squared minus 1 all raised to power of what? 3. So we're going to substitute. T is equal to minus 2. So it's going to be 420. And the t is minus 2. Now this is then divided by, into bracket 9. We have minus 2 squared minus 1 all raised to the power 3. And when you press your calculator for that, it's going to give us minus 24 over what? 1225. So minus 24 over 1225 is less than what? 0. And because it's less than 0, it means it's a maximum what? Point. So therefore, we can now say this point here, was it red or green I used in the previous one? Red, okay. So that means this one here, this point here is a what? A maximum what? Maximum point. All right, and that is how you do it. And also remember, it's also possible to have point of inflections as well. I talked about that when I was talking about derivative, how to find derivative. So it's important that you go back to the textbook, make sure you revise, make sure you practice this kind of question. It follows the same principle. It follows all the rules of differentiation, and that is that for that. And if there are any questions that you can't solve, please send me an email and I will try as much as possible to get back to you. Or you can put it in the comment section so that other subscribers and viewers can also get back to you as well. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to see you in the next video. And if you have any question, please let me know. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. All right, so see you soon. I'll see you in the next video.